Hi friends, my name is Amy Souza, and some of you may know me as Known Heretic from Twitter. And today I'm here to talk to you about sex and gender and how the language that we use is functioning when we use those terms. Today's talk will focus on sex and gender and how those terms come into play when we talk about the word woman, which is a big word that is up in culture today, one that is very important to me. I want to remind everyone that what I'm doing is a critique of cultural scripts, and my critique is not a critique about people being themselves. So this is just a critique about how we use language and how culture uses language. And again, it is not a critique about people being authentically themselves. So today I want to talk about the term woman and what we mean when we say the word woman. And I'm going to talk about the distinction of how we use language, and I'm going to talk about the distinction of how we use language sometimes to describe versus how we use language to prescribe, okay? But before we get to that, I want to define some terms for you. I'm going to define the terms sex and gender so you know how I specifically am using them. First, the word sex. Okay, so when I'm talking about the word sex, I am referring to one of two developmental pathways that humans can take. Okay, I am talking about a reproductive process of a man or a woman, meaning adult human male or adult human female. So those labels that I'm using, man and woman, when I refer to sex, are talking about body organization and function in the reproductive process. Okay, there's two kinds of ways that human bodies can be organized in the reproductive process. And that is either organized around the making of small mobile gametes or around the production of making large immobile gametes, okay? And specifically, these terms are used regardless of, I'm trying to specify that those terms are used regardless of whether the humans actually make those gametes, okay? So it's not about if you actually are a fertile woman who is making those gametes. You can be premenstrual, you can be menopausal. It isn't about whether or not you make them. It's about a body organization. It's about how bodies are organized and how those organizations function, okay? I'm going to take a little moment here during my sex part of the talk, and I'm going to talk about DSD conditions. And DSD conditions are disorders of sexual development. And a lot of times when we're talking about the term sex and we are talking about how sex is dimorphic, a lot of people want to hop in and talk about people with DSD, which are sometimes colloquial called intersex, but the actual accurate term is DSD for these people. And I just want to clarify right here that people who are having DSD conditions are still either male or female, okay? They still have bodies that are organized around the production of small mobile gametes or large immobile gametes, okay? They have external abnormalities perhaps with their genitalia, but they still have male or female bodies, and DSD conditions are sex-specific conditions, okay? So they affect males and females differently. So I just want to clarify here, there is no third sex and there is no third gamete, okay? There's only two, the small mobile, the sperm, or the large immobile, the ova. So that is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about bodies organized around sex, okay? So the next term I'm going to talk about is gender. Okay. And when I'm talking about gender, I am talking about the cultural codes of stereotypical behavior that are associated with male or female sex bodies, so men or women. Okay. These are the personality traits, the expressions that culture designates as belonging to one or other of the sex bodies. Okay. Examples of gender, it's kind of hard to, it's a concept, so it's a little bit hard to point and see about that one. So examples of gender would be pink is for girls, blue is for boys. Examples of gender would be real men don't cry, or a woman's place is in the kitchen. Those are some of the more kind of overt examples, but we have a lot more insidious examples that are projected through the beauty industry and media in general that sort of exemplify social codes and social scripts about how women are supposed to dress versus how men are supposed to dress, or how women are supposed to behave versus how men are supposed to behave. Men are dominant, women are submissive, men are strong, women are weak. These are examples of how culture codes gender onto sex bodies. Okay. Oh, I lost my place. So now that I've defined how I'm going to be using the word sex and gender, I want to define what I'm doing when I'm talking about the terms describe versus prescribe. Okay, now these terms may seem so simple to you. You might think that I'm doing a little bit of overkill right now in breaking down these terms for you, but I just want to be really clear about how I see the culture enacting these things, and it's enacted through how we describe versus how we prescribe according to terms. So when I use the word describe, I am meaning to say that I am giving an account of observable traits. Okay, in a sense, I am doing something so very basic when I use this word. I'm basically doing the equivalent of a child doing point and say. I am pointing at something, I am seeing it, and I am saying what I see. Okay, this is description. And description is very important in the empirical sciences in order to classify different kinds of organisms by their specific types of being. We describe them. Descriptions could include physical qualities, it could include observable traits, it could include the function of those bodies, but these are what we mean when we say that we are describing things. Okay, and now when I use the word prescribe, okay, what I am meaning is the way in which we predetermine or designate something in advance, okay? The prefix pre gives us a hint about what is at work here. So it is ordering the operations in advance. It is laying down rules of action in advance. It's a guide or a predetermination of how something will be. And it has the function of determining in advance the quality of a thing. That is what I mean when I say prescribe. Okay. So now we're getting into it. Now we're coming to the word that I came here to talk about, which is the word woman. Okay. I'm going to talk about this because of some of the heatedness that we have around this word right now. It is so heated and up in culture. J.K. Rowling has just received so much flack for using this word. She made a somewhat, I think, lighthearted critique about how we use this word around menstrual products, which is a really basic women's rights issue, but a lot of people have now taken to calling women menstruators because somehow it is seen as exclusionary to use the word woman, as if we are forgetting about people. But again, I want to talk about how the word woman is talking about a kind of function of bodies, not a style of human being. So Rowling sort of argued that menstruation is specifically a woman's issue, and women don't like to be called menstruators. And I want to basically, though, take a look at what is at work here, what's going on, why the hype, what is Rowling trying to communicate, what am I trying to communicate, and what are other people communicating when they use the word woman. So we want to just break that down a little bit today. So, and again, I just want to remind everyone as we go forward that my critique is about a hierarchy of gender systems, okay? It's a hierarchy where we have men on top and women on the bottom, and I'm critiquing that hierarchy and how the language that we use upholds this hierarchy, okay? My position is as a gender abolitionist. I want to break those chains of gender that say certain roles and behaviors are prescribed to sex bodies. That's what I want to break down. I believe that sex bodies should be free to dress, behave, express, have whatever personalities, have whatever passions or vocations they want, okay? I am not critiquing people being their most authentic selves. That's not what I'm doing here. Okay, so what do we mean when we describe the word woman? Okay, empirical science has given us an entire animal classification system. Okay, empirical science has been up to this for centuries, really. If I were to describe myself using this classification system, I would say that I am an animal. I would say that I am a mammal. I would say that I am a primate. I would say that I am a human. I would say that I am a woman. These are all words that describe my body and my body's specific kind of organization. I don't have the organization of a plant or a fungus, okay? I have the organization of a mammal, an animal, okay? I don't have the organization of a reptile or a marsupial. I have the organization of a mammal. I don't have the organization of a rodent or a feline. I have the organization of a primate. And I don't have the organization of a great ape. I have the organization of a human. And I don't have the organization of a man. I have the organization of a woman, okay? Woman being adult, human, female. It's a kind of body organization. Now, each of these categories describes kinds of observable traits that my body has. None of these terms, animal, mammal, primate, none of these terms prescribe or preordain traits about myself, okay? All of these things are things that you can see with your own eyes about the functioning of my kind of body. In terms of the activity of describing, the word woman describes my specific kind of being. Just as much as the word animal describes my, for example, mobility versus plant mobility, okay, among other things, or just like the word mammal has a way of describing a kind of warm-bloodedness as opposed to a reptile cold-bloodedness, okay, among other things, or just that human describes a kind of bipedal way of moving about rather than moving about on hooves, for example. Woman is describing my specific kind of reproductive process. It's a description. It is not a prescription, okay? When I use that word, woman, about myself or others, I'm simply sharing information about the kind of body you can have. Now, when we hear the mantra, trans women are women, or trans women want to be treated as women, I want to question what is at work here. What is happening, okay? Because we know once we start saying that, we have now moved out of the realm of description, okay? Because descriptors are observable observations that can be made about bodies. The word woman, okay, is a descriptive term, so it can't describe people with male bodies. Those descriptions don't apply to people with male bodies. So what's happening when we hear that mantra is a prescription, okay? It's a prescription of societal gender scripts, okay? Prescriptions of gender are saying, again, people with certain sex bodies, in this case women, have predetermined ways of behaving or dressing that have nothing to do with body function, okay? So when we say that there is a way to treat someone as a woman, what could that possibly mean? I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. So what does this look like in practice? Trans women want to be treated as women. Okay, well, a woman, we know, is just saying an adult human female, okay, if we're using a descriptor of the word. So what does it look like to treat someone as if they are an adult human female? An adult human female is simply a human who has a vulva or a vagina or a body that is organized around making large immobile gametes. So what does it look like in practice to treat someone as if they have this kind of body functioning? And how am I meant to discern my treatment of someone with a vulva from my treatment of someone with a penis? Okay, I kind of am very confused by this, because what does this look like in practice? Okay, in my general conversations, how am I supposed to treat you if I want you to infer that I believe you have a vulva, as opposed to how I would treat you if I want you to believe that I believe that you have a penis? Okay, this seems very gendered to me. Okay, this is a way of prescribing behavior onto a word. It is a way of gendering a word that divorces the word from its actual function. Okay, if you believe that there is a specific way that people with vulvas should be treated, you are doing the work of gendering, okay? You are prescribing behavior onto a kind of body, okay? So, yes, so this is only possible when you have turned the word woman from a label that is describing function into a gender that is prescribing behavior. Stating that there is a way to act like or dress like or behave like a woman that's divorced from the body is an act of gendering. So what does it look like to act like a woman or behave like a woman? I don't know. There's nearly 4 billion women and girls on this planet. None of us dress the same. None of us act the same. None of us have the same personalities. The only thing that all of us have in common is a certain kind of way that our body is organized. And all of us are free to have the personalities, behaviors, any kind of trait that we like. An example of the way that we gender women and girls' bodies, I can tell a personal story. I was raised in a fundamentalist church, and I was taught things as a child like women are made to be submissive and men are the heads of the households and women need to submit to men's leadership. This was a gendering of my body, and from a very young age, I rejected this. I felt very uncomfortable with the gendering of my body. I wanted my body to be free to express whatever personality traits that I wanted. So gendering has always been very uncomfortable to me, and that is one of the reasons that I don't want to do it to anyone. It makes me feel trapped and uncomfortable and like there's a certain right way to be me, which is sort of insane explain. There's only my way of being me. There's only being ourselves, and our bodies are just a kind of functioning. So just like I live in a body with lungs, but I don't identify as a lunged person, or I exist in a body that has kidneys in order to function, but I don't identify as a kidneyed person. I exist in a body that has a female reproductive system, but I do not identify with the functioning of my body. That is just what describes the kind of body that I have, but my personality, my expression, my vocation are all free to be whatever I want. Okay. So this is just a way of looking at how we're using language right now that is actually upholding a hierarchy. Okay, so when we use language in a gendered way, it's upholding those hierarchies that keep women in one place and men in another place. Okay, and what we need is for people to release gender and be free to express who they are in their bodies. So in conclusion, okay, I am observing the construct of gender projected onto sex bodies. And I'm saying that this perpetuates a hierarchy that continues to oppress and exploit the female sex class of women and girls. If you don't like what I have said here in my critique of language, I guess I would ask you the question, why should we maintain gender hierarchies? Okay, they've been observed to be very harmful. They are used in the practices of maintaining trafficking, of maintaining child brides, of the practice of female genital mutilation and female infanticide. So the gendering of culture upholds these hierarchies in which women's bodies are exploited. So I just would ask you, why should we maintain those hierarchies? And why are the hierarchies of gender helpful to anyone? Why do we need them? They are a construct. They are not innate to bodies the way that functioning is innate to bodies. Who do these hierarchies serve? That's another question I have. And if anyone has a good reason why we should uphold these hierarchies and why we should project gendered codes onto the neutral language that we just use to describe bodies, I would love to hear it. So that's my talk for today. I hope to be sharing more with you all later. I appreciate it. You can check me out at @knownheretic on Twitter. Thanks. Bye.